Hey everyone, it's Aesah, and welcome to my video on power budgets. By power budgets, I simply mean a mental framework to make sure you're being as efficient as possible using your limited resources. Every unit, item, augment, they are generally intended to be balanced. So if you're not using everything you have available to you from that item, unit, or augment, then you might be wasting some of its power budget. So I'll talk about some examples. I think this should make it more clear. If we look at frontline items, for example, Crown Guard gives 20 AP and then 25 more AP, so 45 AP total. If you put this on a unit that doesn't actually scale very well off AP, in set 14, this could be Sejuani, for example, you're not really getting that much value from this item compared to other alternatives because a lot of the value of the item is in the AP. Sometimes you'll have no choice, you'll have no better option, so you have to use it just due to the random item components you get every game. But in general, all of these items are supposed to be pretty balanced. Riot doesn't intend it to be like, oh wow, I got a chain vest and a rod. Now I can build a crown guard, which is an overpowered item. They're all intended to fulfill different purposes. You can see an item like Bloodthirster. A lot of the power budget is in the defensive stats with the max shield and the omnivamp and even the magic resist. So if you use this on a squishy backline unit, you can see it's not going to be very valuable because the backline unit doesn't benefit that much from these stats. So it would mostly only benefit from the offensive stats, so you're not getting a lot of value. One thing to note is a lot of these items that give AD and AP kind of assume that your unit can only use one or the other. So you don't really need to think of it as if you're putting Giant Slayer on an AD unit, for example, you don't need to think of it as like, oh, the ability power is wasted. Just you can see like a lot of these are just AD and AP. Blue buff is the same thing here. It does still show the old 30 mana in set 15. It is going to be mana regen, but AD and AP typically just go together because there's very, very few units that benefit from both. And the ones who do actually might be better with these items. One general way you can kind of estimate power budgets for augments and even unit traits when making a decision is just looking at the component base stats. Generally, most items will be worth about 6 to 7 components. But for example, 10% attack speed is about the same powered budget as 10% attack damage. Attack speed tends to be more prevalent where it's kind of useful on everything. So if you have a team-wide bonus, like an augment that gives everything on your team attack speed, it might have to give a little less than if you have an augment that gives everything on your team AD, just because chances are you'll have some units that will benefit from the attack speed but not from the AD. So you can keep that in mind. And the way you can use this power budget concept is if you have a team where every single unit can benefit from AD, for example, they all have a lot of attack speed and they all scale off AD, then perhaps the augment that gives your whole team AD is going to be very valuable. I've been mostly talking about items here, but I also want to look at another example here with PowerUps, which is a new mechanic in set 15. And again, these power-ups are intended to be balanced. I'm sure Riot's design team has not perfectly achieved this goal yet, so there may be certain power-ups that are just a lot stronger than others. Using the framework of the item-based stats, you might be able to even find these yourself. But one example of using the power budget is this Infernal Speed, for example. On takedown, generate a cinder, grant your team 2% for every 8 cinders. So basically, you'll get an extra team-wide 2% attack speed every couple rounds. So as you can see, if you get this in stage 2, by the end of the game, it may be giving your entire team 10 or more attack speed, which is a lot of the power budget is in the scaling portion of this power up. However, if you put the power up on a unit that you're not planning to keep on your late game board, then I would very strongly avoid taking Infernal Speed. Even if you want 10% attack speed, even if you think this unit scales really well with attack speed, most of the power budget of this power up is in the scaling that you will not benefit if you're just planning to sell this unit in stage 4, for example. Then you're wasting a lot of the value of this power up, and you can probably get something better. A better attack speed augment. Same thing as kind of max attack. It's another permanently scaling power up. If you're not planning to keep the unit, you're losing a lot of value here. Maybe even something like stretchy arms might be preferred if it's just temporary, even though it's the same amount of attack speed. But at the same time, some of the power budget is in the attack range. So if you're a unit that doesn't want attack range at all, then maybe you'll look for something else other than that. Maybe something like precision, which will give you all of the benefit purely in immediate damage. Although, even for this one, some of the values in the mana. So if you have a unit that doesn't care about the mana, then maybe not this one either. But basically, this is kind of the framework you could kind of think about in order to maximize your choices in power-ups. Oh, here's a good example. I was just kind of scrolling through until I found one. Cyclone Rush is a great one. Let's say you have a temporary unit that you're only planning to play for stage 2 and you just want to be as strong as possible. Cyclone Rush might be a good option. You can see it gives immediately 15% attack speed, which is more than the other options we looked at already. And then it'll give you this, disable the opposite opponent. This is like Zephyr from the previous set. For 3 seconds, you will always get value from this in every fight. At least a little bit, even if you don't hit their main carry. Disabling any unit is helpful. But if you have a temporary unit, you could go for something like this. Whereas maybe if you're playing a reroll comp that relies on a lot of units that benefit from attack speed, maybe something like Infernal Speed is going to be really nice. That's going to wrap it up on this video for power budget. If you have any comments or questions, let me know in the Discord, and thanks for watching.